Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, leader. Happy summer. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. Gosh, talk about a change of seasons. I don't know about you, but I have never had such a challenging time with transitions from just, the normal school year, a little bit of routine to now having two essentially preteen teenage boys who are constantly on the go, constantly trying to push the limits and, extend their rope of freedom. And I feel like I can hardly keep up. It's funny, I just sit down to record this podcast and out of my peripheral view, out of my window here upstairs, I see a few kids running up to ding dong ditch the house. Yeah, it's full on toilet papering during the day. It's chaos, and it's fun chaos. And I actually am recording this on video only because I'm trying something a little bit different here. Typically I have a really well thought out outline and some strategic talking points for you. And, I thought it's summer and I'm kind of feeling, as if you're watching this on video, you can see me in my legit t-shirt and hat. And I'm super just cashed out because I am living by my energy this summer. I'm just kind of feeling my way through. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to start or just to have a little fun this summer and put together a series of podcasts that are really just unscripted. So this unscripted summer series, and I'm just going to talk when I feel inspired to talk on this podcast, and we're going to kind of go with the flow. And so today I was thinking about some conversations I have been having this week so far, actually related to the podcast that I released last week, which was all about uncomfortable truths. And what's so interesting is that podcast stimulated a cast of different experiences and brought up a different set of feelings and introspection among the different clients that I've had conversations with about that podcast. And I think the big takeaway is just sort of revisiting what it's like to be a female entrepreneur. And for me, I know in a season of change right now, there's this undercurrent of emotion and energy. And I don't want to call it stress necessarily, but it's almost like a tug of war internally of wanting to grow, wanting to push the foot on the gas pedal, and then really being called to take a season of pleasure. And the sun finally came out in Southern California by God's goodwill. I never thought we would see that again. And so it's just this balance, and it's hard to explain, but that in itself is kind of exhausting. And I find myself sometimes getting up in the morning and going for my morning workout and then jumping in the sauna and feeling like I'm decompressing from my exhausting day. That's been an hour, 2 hours so far, a workout and probably driving Luke to junior lifeguards. And it's just because it's a night of, I swear I was joking with someone today that I think I just am sleeping in REM sleep or whatever the lightest form of sleep is, where you're actually not resting, you're just dreaming. That's where I'm living. And so I think I'm just in constant exhaustion. And that's the deal. That's what it's like being a female entrepreneur. And we have phases like this, through the course of our life. It's not just summer season necessarily, but there's ebbs and flows, year 3, year 7, the month of June, holiday, you name it. There's different times and periods of time that become so emotionally taxing on you that you go into this like self-preservation mode. And so I've sort of been on this, what I'm telling myself is like this elimination diet, not actual diet, actually kind of a bit, but no, like an elimination diet in the sense that I am in the state of mind that I want to get rid of anything and everything that is not serving me, because I'm trying to preserve my energy, because I'm trying to really hold space for myself and give myself grace for just feeling the wave of transition that's happening. And so I'll even walk into a room and I'm kind of doing this game with myself that like, I have to leave a room with something to throw away or donate. So we're just like cleaning house, literally cleaning house and proverbially trying to eliminate things that don't feel good. And I think that's part of me, like trying to record a podcast and have meetings in my t-shirt and my hat and like whatever I feel like wearing, it's like, it's all about the feels. And as I've been having these conversations with clients about this last week's podcast and the seasons of change and how, everybody is feeling and it's a lot of emotion about leading into the second half of the year and really preparing for what's coming in 2024. And, something that has come up again and again and again as we think about approaching and uncovering or unveiling uncomfortable truths and making decisions about how to move forward from the place that we are being stuck in our head. It's things like, I feel alone. I feel like, I feel misunderstood. I feel like the people around me can't support me at this next level. I feel like I'm dragging my business behind me. I feel like I've put all the things in place and I've gotten exactly to where I wanted to be or probably beyond. And I've experienced such tremendous success that now I look back and I just don't even know how I got here. And I think that there's a version of this that happens to us over the ebbs and flows of being a business leader. And as a female, we are, many of us empaths, many of us are just really highly emotionally intelligent or intuitive or just in touch with energy of other people. And we're amplifying that feeling when we're thinking about how the moves that we make in our business and life are going to impact the people around us and around our future and ourselves. And so when you're in this place where you've got like the one foot on one side of the line in self-preservation mode, and you've got the other foot in I'm a warrior, got to build this business mode, it really calls for a moment of introspection and of perspective. And I've used this analogy in the past, and I'll make it quick for those of you who've been podcast followers. You hear me talk about my first trip to New York and my experience in New York. And I was really looking forward to going to New York the first time I did. I mean, I had heard about all this amazingness of New York. And when I arrived, it was like, what is this place? I could not understand all of the buzz about the ambiance of New York. I was like hustle and bustle, taxis, honking, loud noises, couldn't find my way around, took an hour to get somewhere I could have walked in 4 blocks, trash lining the streets, hotel room was like the size of a shoebox. And I was like, what is this place? Like, what are people talking about? And I remember a girlfriend saying, next time you come back, let me take you. Well, I was working with Bear Healthcare and I was training at the time. So I had 3 weeks there. And so that next weekend, my girlfriend met me in Manhattan and she took me up to this like amazing penthouse suite and dinner, this like, whatever Michelin restaurant and the whole thing. And boy, was that a whole different experience. And when I was up at that penthouse looking down, of course I couldn't see the taxis and the trash and the noise and the tourists and the grossness. All I could see was like beautiful glimmering lights and bridges and waters and monuments and skyscrapers and heaven, and it was so lovely up there. And I think about that so often as a parallel to the way we operate in our business, where we get kind of pulled into the weeds and we have a difficult time not only seeing the way out or really seeing down the street or from A to Z or getting to the other side, but we almost can't even envision or see the bigger picture of what things look like because we're so pulled into the ground level. And so I often will do a meditation with our clients and really envisioning taking themselves and their life in this sort of parallel universe of pulling themselves out from the weeds of the day-to-day operations and what's happening right now in their life to this penthouse suite level where they can really look at their life from a bigger perspective. And I think that that's the place to be when you're really thinking about where to lead your business. And I had a conversation just today with a client who was like, I just think it's time to rethink the big picture. And I have found myself at a place where, of course, I wanted to build a team, gone from a couple employees to a whole, double digits, expanded locations, and then expanded that location, brought on new services. And what's so interesting is like all that growth sounds totally normal, right? And, no other providers and businesses just kind of like going. And then she gets to a point where she's like kind of unfulfilled and uninspired by her role in her own business. And some of that being, I started introducing wellness and some functional medicine and hormone replacement therapy. And I'm sitting down with clients and they're just crying to me about like how I've changed their life. And it's so fulfilling. Yet that's just the smallest portion of what I get to do because I have this whole operation that I built. And I think sometimes, and I thought of this as we're getting ready to launch our summer Confidence to Scale series. Sometimes I'll have women come to me and be like, I'm too far along in my business. And what's funny is it doesn't really matter how quote unquote far along you are in your business because you change as a woman. And sometimes what changes is the relationship that you have with your business. And sometimes it doesn't evolve in the way that you expected it to. And you find yourself in a place where all of this grind that you put in, all of this daily, just hustle and grit and passion and tenacity and freaking resilience and all of that, right? The risks that you took, all of those things. And then you find yourself in a place where you're like, how the hell did I get here? And what does this mean for me? And you start to think about the pace at which you've been moving and the thought of that even expanding by 1 millisecond or one little iota freaks you out because you're like, I don't have more to give at that pace. I don't have more to give to that thing that I thought I wanted, but is now draining my energy. And we have clients that have very similar situations and different experiences, right? Through different experiences, expanding again, locations or building team or adding new services, and then finding themselves like needing to take a pause and really rethink the future and rethink their own relationship with their business. And sometimes we think about like, what do you want in 10 years? And it's so hard to answer that question, yet it's such a beautiful place to go because you can really allow yourself the space and the time to get there to achieve that, right? You're not putting yourself under pressure, like another goal, another thing we have to hit. It's more, you can become more expansive and more visionary. But at the same time, if I look back 10 years ago, I am nowhere where I thought I would be. Now, my values have not changed, but I simply have built something entirely different than I thought that I would. And so why wouldn't it make sense for me to really think about where I want to take this thing again, right? So it's a reset. It's essentially rethinking what the big picture looks like, not only for me, for my business, but also how I want to interact with my business in the future. I was listening to Kelly Roach's podcast this morning, and she was talking about something so fascinating that I was like, gosh, she's kind of spot on, that a lot of us are freaking out about the shifts in the economy and what the future implications financially are going to be for us, and what's recession going to look like, and inflation, and how's that going to impact my business? How's that going to impact consumer spending and buying behaviors of customers? And her point was that, yes, there is in fact, significant changes and shifts happening, and we have to get smarter, but there's also a widespread mental health epidemic, and people are not the same as they used to be. And she was talking about, even just for her and her business and the clients she works with, she's absolutely rolled the red carpet out for, built really great programs, done everything that she possibly can do to give them a pathway to achieve their goals. And they're not ready, willing, and able to put in the work. And I think it's the same for providers. And I think of this for our clients who are running their brick and mortar businesses and showing up every day with team members and patients who essentially are their tightest inner circle. If you think about who you spend the most time with, that's really them. And yet I see so many of us female entrepreneurs who are freaking grinding it in life, taking care of all the things, showing up in our business and putting up with people in our ecosystem that are draining our energy, that are mentally unstable, that are entitled, that are sucking from us, that are taking from us, that are leaving us depleted at the end of the day. And we have a choice. And when I think about the future, for me, I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. Like, I didn't start my business so that I could choose to put up with a bunch of BS. You know what I mean? And I think we all need to really rethink that. And I think sometimes we lie to ourselves and tell ourselves that, oh, well, we just have to be, we're still building, right? And this is a conversation I had with our client today. I'm like, you're built. There ain't no building. You're built. It's time for, you can see me by referral only. You're there. And guess what? We all get to choose this at any stage of our business and in our life, is we can just simply put a boundary in place and assert our own worthiness. And look, if you're like, oh, I'm not ready, or what if, and you don't feel worthy, that's what you need to be working on, because that will block you from growth at every single stage of its life cycle. And so I'd like to invite you, because as I'm thinking about our more advanced businesses, or businesses that are actually really crushing it, are usually being led by a woman who is crushing it for a reason, because she's a badass, but she needs to have her cup filled too. And it's totally okay to get to a point where you feel like, I'm proud of everything I've built. I love what I do, but I don't necessarily see myself showing up in this way in this business and in my life every day in the future. And so I need to reimagine what that future looks like, and at the same time, reinvent its leader. And so I can offer this to you, that I don't think it's ever too late, and I don't think you're ever too far along to hit that reset button. And so I guess finally, my last point here, I'm going on my tangent, is that some of the decisions that you are making in your business may be because you are energetically depleted. And so you are paying and overpaying for contractors, for support, for employees, for programs, for technology, for you name it, to fill your energy gaps, instead of doing this work, which is constructing a new model for growth. And so I'd love to invite you, if this is resonating with you, to jump into our summer program. We are going to be closing registration soon. So hurry the heck up. It's at klcconsultants.com/scale. And we can spend 6 weeks together helping you renew your relationship with your business and reimagining and reinventing and rethinking the bigger picture. All right, Goddess, it's been fun. Thank you for joining me today for this fun, unscripted summer conversation, and I will see you next week. Wait, before you go, if you're vibing with this conversation and want to join me on my mission to help 1,000 inspiring and intentional women cross the next $1 million milestone in their business this year, or maybe you want to become one of them, head over to Facebook and join our free community, the Fierce Factor Society. Over there, we are taking this conversation to an elevated level. Get access to resource guides, podcast supplements, and guideposts, direct communication with me and my expert team, and of course, a society of fierce women making big moves and disrupting the status quo in aesthetics and wellness. You can link directly through the show notes or head to Facebook and search up the Fierce Factor Society. See you there, Goddess.